We're now going to ask Gilbert Verdian to come up on stage, and he is looking at how to connect blockchain. And this is very important in terms of interoperability between blockchains, but also important in terms of collaboration and competition, one of the themes I set. So without further ado, if Gilbert, you would like to come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, actually. It is evening. So my name is Gilbert. I am wanting to talk to you about Overledger. So we've created a solution that fixes a problem that we all have. And if you look at what the problem is, we've had this issue before with the internet. So Overledger, we've created a blockchain operating system that lives on blockchain. And it's not a blockchain. So if I just introduce us, so my background has been about 20 years in cybersecurity, working in banking, financial services, and government. Paolo, he heads up the Center for Blockchain Studies at UCL, so he's very prominent. A lot of people know him in the space. And Colin, he's a cybersecurity guy as well, working in AI and cybersecurity. So we came together, between the three of us, there's about 80 years of experience. So we consider us as one of the best blockchain enterprise teams that has come together in the world. So if I tell you a story, so my introduction to blockchain and Bitcoin was in 2009. Did anyone buy any Bitcoin in 2009? Because I didn't. No. So it was 0.0005 cents. So I was working at the Treasury, the UK's Treasury, which handles the economic aspects of the economy, as the CTO. So I spoke at a conference like this, which was just government, and I said, we need to look at Bitcoin. Has anyone heard about it here? No one knew anything. 2009. So then I got the policy guys in my department to do a paper on it, and the assessment came out that Bitcoin will never have any material impact to the UK's economy, and we're going to leave it like that. And that was 2009. So fast forward to 2014, I was working in healthcare in the Department of Health. I had an issue where health records were all over the place, and I couldn't connect them together. So what I thought of was, you know what, blockchain can solve this. It's a good use case to solve it. So I ended up solving it for healthcare, for the department, but at the same time, the ISO people said, can we turn this into a standard? This is a really good idea. So I ended up founding TC307, which is the ISO standard for blockchain. So now we have 46 countries working together to solve blockchain, and that includes privacy, security, reference architecture, terminology, interoperability, governance, use cases, smart contracts. So 46 countries are all working together to solve blockchains, and the next meeting is in London in a couple of weeks in May. So I wanted to talk to you about networks, and if you look at this diagram, this was done in 1964. So an organization called RAND, they said, this is what networks look like. This is how they actually work. So telecom networks are what we used to have. A central body, you connect into it, you make phone calls. Then we had decentralization when the internet happened, and that was around 89, early 90s, and that's when the internet created a connection of other networks, and we have the internet. And then 2003-ish, we had peer-to-peer. BitTorrent, Napster, we connected to each other to do transfers, and that created the Starfish network. And then something happened. So 2008, the Satoshi paper came out. It was late 2008, 2009, and that changed quite a lot of things. And one of the biggest changes is it created the mechanism of distributed ledgers. And distributed ledgers are where the internet is going. We're all on that journey. In 2018, we are on the journey to create a new internet, and it's the internet of trust. And it's happening already. So what is the internet of trust? And if you think about it, the original internet was a closed network. It was a few nodes, universities, governments, military, connecting to each other. If something funny happened, you can actually ring up the person on the other node and say, what are you doing? Because your computer is doing something really weird, or your network is doing something really weird. But then the internet grew, more people started using it, and we didn't know the people using it. It grew to a mass scale, and then the internet became untrusted. So we can't trust anyone on the internet because we just don't know them. So to do that, we've actually created a cybersecurity industry, which is where I come from. We've protected each other from each other because we've built firewalls, we've put defenses in, we've had data leakage prevention, we have antivirus, we had everything. And that's to protect us from us. And if you think about what society is, we're actually a very untrusting species. We grew up in our tribe. We knew the people around us. If someone new came, we didn't trust them. Who is that person? Why are they walking this way? So society doesn't allow us to trust each other because that's the nature of humans. So to trust each other, we've had to build government, institutions, banks, services, systems in order to do that trust and to gain that trust and to understand I can trust that other person. And that's what blockchain does. If you break down everything, forget all the crypto, forget all the technology, if you break down what blockchain does, it allows person A to trust person B because the protocol told him it's okay. And that's really fundamental because society can change. We can trust each other again without having to know each other. And that's what the real core essence of blockchain is. So with this technology, for the first time, we can actually honor the original vision of the internet to be a trusted network for machines and people to trust each other. So we can trust the network without the need to know and trust each other. Quite powerful. But we have a problem. Blockchains are flawed. We have a problem because blockchains are closed proprietary networks. And if you look at what's happening, Ethereum is being built in isolation. Hyperledger is being built in isolation. Ripple, they're all closed proprietary networks. So whatever you do, you're only on that one blockchain. It's very difficult to do something on Ethereum and be recognized on Ripple and vice versa. So there's a problem because users can't connect and interact with other people on other networks. You're restricted to that network and its technology. So if you're on Ethereum, you're restricted to the technology constructs and the limits of Ethereum. You can't do anything differently. And you can't really benefit from the technology of other blockchains. And finally, you're actually locked in to fees. If the price of mining goes up, you can't change it because you're stuck in the network. And this was the same problem that the internet had. If you're over 30, and if you're over 40, this was the internet. If you remember, you connected with your modem, with the sounds, to your provider. It was CompuServe, Prodigy, America Online. They served you their vision of the internet. This is how you did messages. This is how you did email. And the funny thing is, if you were on CompuServe and you wanted to send an email to someone outside, they charged you. It was like 5p. Did you remember that? I mean, you think about it, it's impossible to think about. So the internet used to be closed proprietary networks. Exactly the same problem as blockchain networks, closed proprietary. And then something happened. The internet opened up. All these networks connected. So openness and connectedness create innovation. And that's what happened. The internet flourished and magic happened. So the internet of today is a result of that connecting of closed networks. And that happened not that long ago. I mean, early 2000s was really when it really took off, late 90s, 2000s. And that's what we seen, and that was the cause to create the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks and all the internet companies because of this thing, because they connected and it was open. So the question I ask is, why should you be limited to one blockchain? Why should you be stuck and limited to one single technology when there's different benefits and different blockchains that you can benefit from? So what we're saying is, why not benefit from all blockchains? And so what we've done with Overledger, it's an operating system that sits on top of existing first-generation blockchains, second-generation blockchains, nth-generation blockchains, and interoperability blockchains, and it allows you to connect seamlessly without giving you any extra overhead, without giving you any extra consensus or cost, because it's facilitating that data transfer between networks. We're connecting and bridging networks and allowing you to do something quite unique to create new multi-chain applications, not distributed applications, multi-chain applications. So if you think about it a bit more, We're kind of like what Microsoft did. If Microsoft in the 90s made Windows to be internet-based and put Windows OS on top of the internet to create internet apps, that's what we're doing today. So we've got our operating system on top of existing blockchains and future blockchains to create internet-based multi-chain apps where you can actually benefit from the different types of blockchain. So the challenge is with the dApp, it's dApp1 sits on blockchain A and it does everything on blockchain A. dApp2 sits on blockchain 2 and does everything on blockchain 2. So you can't allow these applications to transfer data and transfer value very easily. It's a problem, and that's what we're solving. So with multi-chain apps, you can actually split your app up, and you can say, well, I want my app to use a bit of Ripple for authentication. I want it to use a bit of Bitcoin for, let's just say, storage of data. And I want it to use Hyperledger because of scalability for resilience. You can actually have that choice with multi-chain applications. You have the flexibility. And as an enterprise, working at HSBC in my career, you have resilience. So if I want to have multiple data sets, multiple applications across different chains, I've got resilience. And we give you that choice. So the benefit is you can live on and run on multiple chains. You're never limited to a single technology. So if I have a problem with one blockchain just because of a security issue or a scalability issue, right now you're limited, you're stuck. But with having multi-chain applications, you can migrate. You're never limited to IBM. You're never limited to Ethereum. You can manage the cost, because if the fees go up, then running an application might have cost you £1 million a year, and if the fees go up, it's going to cost you 100 million, as an example, and you can't afford that. And finally, what we're doing is creating something called treaty contracts with Hamburg University. This is the multi-chain version of smart contracts. So you can execute a smart contract on one chain and move it on to another and recognize it vice versa. So again, a unique innovation. So how are we going to do this? Well, firstly, we're doing that interoperability, which I've mentioned, without an additional blockchain. We're creating an ecosystem so people can build apps. It's all open source. It's all out there, going to be on GitHub, as mentioned previously. Then we're looking to connect the internet directly to all the blockchains, because you can't do that today either. How can you send a TCP/IP connection from the internet to blockchain? It can't be done. So we want to bridge those two mega networks. And finally, what we're looking to do is to create blockchain IPs, which we're calling Quant IP, to be able to do that internet connection, to create that internet of trust. And that's the next generation internet. And we will create applications like a browser or email or messaging, which are decentralized but hyper-decentralized. And this is where you come in. We are doing this all open source. It's going to be out there. We're creating a map store, which is coming online Q1 2019. This is for you to create multi-chain applications. Our customers are we're focusing on enterprise to solve enterprise problems, but also developers to allow them to do this. So this is created by the community, for the community. It's open source, and we're allowing you to use quant tokens to access the network. And a quant token is pretty much the same as an iPhone. You have an iPhone, it has some keys on there. It's an access key that you use to access the app ecosystem for Apple. And we're doing the same with the quant token. And what you can do with Overledger, we actually don't know. We're creating the platform for you to create amazing things. And we've got some ideas. We want to connect AI, as was mentioned with Ocean. AI has a really good convergence with blockchain, and we can allow that across all the chains. The smart contracts option that I said with treaty contracts, we're looking for that to happen as well. And then hyper-distributed exchanges, not just decentralized, but hyper-distributed, where they work across multiple chains. So atomic swaps are become real at a hyper-internet scale perspective, and other products. So we're creating this platform for you to create new innovation. And finally, if you're interested, you can own these tokens. So we have our ICO. It's running currently, and you can sign up today. And we've built the system. If you want to do the KYC, we've done it in Switzerland from a regulatory perspective. We're based in the UK. It's all automated, so you have the opportunity to be part of this. And we kind of consider ourselves a Microsoft of blockchain, where we're creating that operating system for you to be able to create new innovation, new technology. And these are our details. So if you would like more information, please reach out. We're quite active in the community. We're across government. We're across enterprise. Go to www.quant.network, and we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to give you this tool for you to create some new amazing technology and let blockchain flourish. Thank you.